A silent voice creates characters in a way I haven't really seen done before. Each character in this film falls within a grey area between fiction and realism, a kind of golden medium in which they're both caricatured and extremely easy to relate to at the same time. The question is then, how is it that director Naoko Yamada manages to pull this off, all whilst creating a beautiful film that connects to people on such a personal level? Well, here is my take. Before I begin with the analysis though, I should just mention this film tackles some difficult themes, from bullying to depression and suicide. So please feel free to turn this video off at any point and make sure to take care of yourselves. A Silent Voice revolves around the story of our main character Ishida. When a deaf girl, Nishimiya, moves into his school as a child, he bullies her, attempting to win favour with his friends. However, after causing Nishimiya considerable pain, she's moved schools and Ishida now finds himself on the receiving end, developing social anxiety. Years later, Ishida attempts to redeem himself by befriending Nishimiya, which raises questions about guilt, self-worth, responsibility, and forgiveness. When thinking about realism in films, it can often be easy to interchange the words gritty and realistic. A Silent Voice takes a different approach to realism, establishing characters with mixed personalities, making it easier to explore their behaviour and the motivations for their decisions. In this story, those decisions are often driven by one of two things, either jealousy or guilt. In Ishida's case, he feels incredible guilt for the way he treated Nishimiya during childhood, provoking him to attempt to redeem himself by learning sign language and befriending her. Initially, he's blamed for being selfish, only reconciling with Nishimiya to satisfy the guilt he's been feeling. And when challenged on this, he questions himself and his own self-worth. Ishida's self-worth complex, in my opinion, is actually portrayed very accurately. It's common within social anxiety and other mental health disorders to question whether you're worthy of the treatment you're receiving. Considering how Ishida views himself and his previous actions, it seems justified that he would be taken aback by Nishimiya's forgiveness, feeling he doesn't have the right to be forgiven so quickly. In Nishimiya's case, she feels guilt for breaking up the relationships Ishida and his friends previously had. This may seem an unreasonable perception of a situation in which she was essentially the victim. Objectively, she shouldn't be blamed for being bullied, but a major part of that bullying and a recurring message that she's been fed throughout the film is that her involvement with the other characters is the cause of their issues, leading her to the conclusion that they'd be better off if she weren't there. Although both characters show large amounts of generosity and kindness throughout the film, they're flawed by their own self-perception, and director Naoko Yamada makes sure this sentiment is echoed back to them by the characters around them. This means it's incredibly satisfying when, towards the end of the film, the characters learn to understand their own thinking and see things with a more clear view. The great thing about every single character in A Silent Voice is that none of them are perfect. They all have flaws, but more importantly, they all have redeeming qualities as well. Nagatsuka is overprotective and awkward. However, he also shows loyalty by returning Ishida's bike to him, and cheers him up by joking with him when he's down. Ueno is self-centered, jealous, and manipulative. Even so, she takes care of Ishida while he's hospitalized towards the end of the film. This balance between negative and positive means that although the film tackles some heavy topics, it's also quite uplifting in places and doesn't feel hopeless or miserable. Moreover, the fact that characters are balanced means regardless of whether they fall out with each other or have differences, they can still actually interact with each other in a realistic and mature way. So often in movies, when characters disagree, it means they're incapable of talking to one another, or when they do interact, it's argumentative and angry. Ueno is probably the least likeable character in the film, however, even she's able to talk and for the most part get on with the other characters at certain points. It's important for each character to be able to communicate with others calmly, as it creates a comfortable setting to explore the sensitive issues the director has chosen to focus on. Everything about A Silent Voice is perfectly tailored to presenting the story in a relaxed and gentle way. The soft and stripped-back music helps set the perfect tone for each scene, and the use of pastel colours and stylized animation, as well as a consistent but steady pacing, establishes a backdrop for a story not just about the struggles people can face growing up, but also the positivity of overcoming those problems. It's this attention to detail that immerses the viewer into the world of the film and helps us to identify with each character. Even smaller things such as Ishida's mannerisms, the way he looks at the ground or tilts his neck to one side when he's nervous, makes the story more believable and relatable. In addition, the way characters behave and react throughout the film is often in contradiction with what they say. For example, Kawaii, I believe that's what she's called, tries to present herself as caring and understanding, but when it comes to any points of contention, she acts as if she's above people. well. Sometimes films have a tendency to be a bit on the nose. Characters usually say what they think, but because in A Silent Voice this isn't as clear, it means the director has had to put more emphasis into the way characters visually show how they're feeling. This is why it's so clever to have one of the main characters as a deaf girl, because it forces the characters around her to communicate more visually. Therefore, the way characters' feelings are presented can be more abstract. For example, the large blue crosses which cover people's faces depending on their relationship with Ishida. The fact Ishida's social anxiety has a concrete representation makes it all the more satisfying when he manages to overcome it, as we can see the physical reaction of the blue crosses hitting the ground. Overall, I think A Silent Voice is a good lesson on how to discuss difficult subject matter by making the audience feel secure, but also by creating some intriguing and complex characters. Those are just my thoughts on the film. If you did watch this video before watching the movie, then I hope it hasn't ruined it too much for you, and I definitely recommend watching it for yourself because what you take from the film might be completely different to my interpretation. Subscribe or I'll put a blue cross on your face. Thanks very much for watching and goodbye.